Have you ever seen a game, a football match, a basketball match, and you see a star rise above and achieve the unimaginable, the incredible, the Olympics, where athletes do these incredible achievements? The courage that dropped Goliath was not manufactured on the battlefield that day, not the pressure. It wasn't built it was built in the wilderness. The pressure wasn't forged in the moment, the hype of killing Goliath. Oh, look at this opportunity. I'm going to kill Goliath. No, it was forged in the private moments when David chose to stand instead of run away. Or maybe you've seen the other side. Have you ever watched someone completely fall apart under the pressure and thought to yourself, wow, I didn't know they were like that? Or maybe you've watched someone go through something devastating, lost their job, failed a business, broken relationship, and they've come out calm, composed, even stronger on the other side than you thought they ever would. Where does it come from? Here's what I want you to understand today. It doesn't come from the pressure. Preparation is the key. It was already there. Most people believe, and I mean most, and I used to be one of them, most people believe that hard times make you who you are, that the pressure builds the character, that the fire creates the gold. And I don't believe that anymore. I think pressure reveals, doesn't build. It reveals who you are. Because when life squeezes you, when whatever was already inside you starts to come out, when money gets tight, habits get exposed. When relationships get hard, emotional maturity gets exposed. When your business hits a wall, your systems, your discipline, your preparation, all of it gets exposed. Pressure doesn't build you overnight. Pressure reveals what you have been preparing in private. And that's what this video is all about. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to look at a man in the Bible who understood this principle before any of us were born. And most importantly, I'm going to show you how to become someone who is ready for the pressure when it shows up, because it's going to show up. Because here's the thing, pressure is coming for all of us. The question isn't, will life squeeze us? Will life give us hard times? The question is, when it does, what are you going to do? How are you going to turn out? So let's jump out. Let's jump in. Sorry, not jump out. Let's jump in. So number one, the lie. I want to start by exposing the lie. And it's a lie that almost all of us believed at some point. The lie sounds like this: great people reveal themselves under pressure. And on the surface, that sounds true. It sounds deep. It sounds like something you put on a motivational poster, right? Here's the problem. It's incomplete. And incomplete truth is one of the most dangerous things in the world, because what that statement leaves out, what it completely ignores, is everything that happened before the pressure came. Think about the stories we celebrate. We love champion moments. We love watching someone step up when everything is on the line, when the clock is running out, when the stakes are the highest, and we put those moments on highlight reels. We post those clips. We get those quotes, but we skip the practice. Amateurs practice to get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Did I say that right? Amateurs practice so they can get it right. Professionals practice so they can never get it wrong. We skip the early mornings. We skip the thousands of hours of repetition that happened when nobody was watching, when nobody was clapping, when there was no crowd, no camera, no applause. They romanticize the moment, and we all ignore the season that produced the moment. The athletes achieving gold medals in the moment, winning the 100-meter sprint in that moment, but do you see the decades of preparation to get there? And this is why so many people end up disappointed, not just with their circumstances, but in themselves. They get into hard situations and they wonder, why am I struggling? Why am I panicking? Why don't I have what it takes to succeed? And the real answer is because they were expecting the pressure to produce something that they never built. Let me give you an analogy, and I want you really sit with this, because this changed the way I think about it. Take a sponge. When you squeeze a sponge, you don't get something new, you get whatever it absorbed. That's it. That's the whole principle. If the sponge absorbed clean water will come out. If the sponge absorbs dirty water will come out. You can squeeze as hard as you want, wring it out. You can only apply so much pressure, but you can't get something out that was never ever put in. That's exactly the same with you and me. When life applies pressure to you, and it applies pressure to me as well, what comes out is it's not determined by the pressure, the moment. What comes out is by what you absorbed before the pressure comes. Pressure reveals your mindset. Pressure reveals your habits. Pressure reveals your emotions. Pressure reveals your level of preparation. Your crisis is usually just your daily training program become visible. I've just finished a book, Never Split the Difference, and Chris Voss says, prepare, prepare, prepare. When the pressure is on, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your highest level of preparation. Myron Golden says, a prepared messenger is better than a prepared message. That's pretty powerful. Your crisis response is usually your daily programming becoming visible, right? Which means if you don't like how you respond in the hard times, the answer is not to toughen up, not to eat some concrete. The answer is to change what you're absorbing right now. People want public victories without private repetitions. They want to perform under pressure without the preparation for pressure. They want to be calm in the storm without practicing peace before the storm arrives. They want to be financially stable in a crisis without building a financial margin before the crisis arrives. It doesn't work that way. It never has. And the sooner we stop waiting for the pressure to make us great and start building greatness before the pressure comes, that's when everything changes. So the question I want you to carry you through this entire video are, what are you absorbing right now? Not the lie that the pressure is going to make us great, because whatever it is, whatever you're absorbing, it's going to come out. Financial pressure that reveals the truth. Let me tell you something about money pressure. Money pressure is one of the fastest truth tellers on the planet, right? A big dollar figure. Because you can't hide a lot of things when life is comfortable. You can fake patience, you can fake generosity, you can fake wisdom, but when money gets tight, and I mean really tight, all of that performance stops, and what actually is underneath starts rising to the surface. I've seen it happen to people who looked wealthy on the outside. Nice cars, nice clothes, the right image. And the moment an unexpected bill shows up, or a job disappeared, or the income dropped, the foundation crumbled. Not because the pressure was strong, but because there was no foundation. There was nothing really behind it. And I've seen people, the opposite too, people with the modest incomes, nothing flashy, nothing impressive, looking from the outside, I think they're just normal. You get hit hard, something terrible happens, and they stay stable because they've got a foundation. Financial pressure doesn't create your situation, it reveals the situation. So let's talk about what actually reveals. The first financial pressure reveals is whether you built margin. Margin means space. It means you don't consume everything that comes in. It means there is a gap between what you earn and what you spend. And you're protected. You protect that gap, even when it's uncomfortable. Most people don't have a margin, or it's tiny. Most people are living right on the edge, or past the edge, or what they bring in, they spend. And that's the case. Any disruption becomes a disaster. A single unexpected expense just destroys them, destroys everything, because there's no buffer, there's no gap. Margin is preparation, and the absence of margin is a crisis waiting to happen. The second thing financial pressure reveals is whether you're confused income and wealth. This is one of the most common traps I see people, is subtle enough that a lot of people don't even realize they've fallen into this trap. Income is what's coming in. Wealth is what stays. And a lot of people, particularly people with high incomes, have learned to look at wealthy without being actually wealthy. They want to look the part. Big income, big lifestyle, but nothing left. And when the income stops or drops or changes, they realize they never actually built anything. They were just moving money from one place to another and calling it success. High income is not wealth. It can be. High income is an opportunity to build wealth, but not many people spend that opportunity. Instead, they just spend the money. The third pressure reveals is whether you depend on appearances. This one is uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it anyway, because somebody in the audience needs to hear it. People spend money not because they need the thing, but because they want to be seen a certain way. The car isn't really about the car. The outfit isn't really about the outfit, right? How I look. The vacation photos are really about how it looks on my Instagram reel. It's about the image and maintaining that image. And when the pressure comes, when the income drops or the unexpected bill shows up or life happens, because it's always going to happen, the image is the first thing that fights for survival. They fight it financially and it devastates them because money spent on appearances is money that was wasted, money that wasn't invested, money that wasn't building anything real. Pressure reveals whether you're building or performing for others. And here's what I want you to shift, because I don't want you to just diagnose the problem. I want you to see the framework. There are four words I build my entire financial philosophy around. Create, capture, cultivate, and compound. And I just want you to understand something. These aren't just financial strategies. These are preparation systems. These are things that can build before the pressure arrives. Create means develop the skills, the value, the ability to generate an income. You become someone that the marketplace wants to pay. You don't just wait for the opportunity, and you build yourself into the opportunity that people gravitate towards. And then you create a margin. You create a gap between what you're earning and what you're spending. Capture. Capture, you mean you actually keep it. So after you make it, you actually keep it. You don't just let the lifestyle creep take over, lifestyle inflation, and consume every dollar that you've made. You created a gap and you protect it. You budget. You budget it. It's not a punishment. It's a strategy. Living below your means. It's discipline, and discipline is preparation. Cultivate means you grow it. You've captured it. Now you put your money to work. You don't let it sit idle. You learn, you invest, you build, you get assets. Compounds means you let the time do the heavy lifting, do the multiplying. Compounding is the reward for the patience. It only works for people who are disciplined long enough to let it build. A budget is preparation. Saving is preparation. Living below your means is preparation. Building skills is preparation. Every one of those things feels small in the moment. None of them feel dramatic and exciting. None of them make a good highlight reel. But every single one of them is absorbing something into that sponge, into your sponge. And when the pressure comes, because it is coming, those habits don't disappear, they show up. And they become the foundation that doesn't crack. I'll be honest with you about something personal. There was a season in my life when the pressure showed up in a way I didn't expect. And I wasn't fully ready for it. And what that season did for me is force me to get serious about systems and structures and not leaving my financial future to chance or circumstance. Because if you don't have systems, you don't have stability, you don't have hope. And hope is beautiful, but hope is not a financial plan. And I learned in that season is that financial literacy is not a luxury for people who already have money. Financial literacy is actually a survival skill that you can learn and you can develop. The only difference between the person who gets broke and the person who gets to build is what they've prepared before the pressure rocks up. So here's the question I want to leave with you before we move on to the next section. If your income stopped tomorrow, not forever, just for 3 months, what would your financial reality actually look like? Not what I wish it looked like, not what you've been meaning to build. What does it actually look like right now? Because that answer tells me exactly what you've been preparing. And if that answer is uncomfortable, good. Use that discomfort, use that to go, actually, well, what am I building? What am I working on? Relationship pressure. I want to talk to you about something that doesn't get discussed enough in conversations about preparation and discipline. Because when people talk about getting their life together, they talk about money, they talk about business, they talk about fitness and habits and morning routines, my 5 a.m. routine to conquer the world. But they almost never talk about emotional maturity. And yet, emotional maturity has destroyed more wealth, more opportunities, more families, and more futures than financial mistakes have ever done. Because you can't have all the money in the world and still lose everything if you don't know how to manage what's happening right inside of you. Here's the truth about relationships. Anyone can have a good partner. Anyone can be a good partner when life is easy. Anyone can be patient when nothing's testing you. Anyone can be kind when there's no reason to be anything else. Anyone can be a good communicator when there's nothing hard to communicate. The question is, who are you when the pressure's up? Who are you when the money is tight, when your partner is scared and everyone in the house is stressed? Who are you when your parenting gets hard, when the child is struggling, when they're exhausted, when you have nothing left? Who are you in the conflict? Not when you're right and everyone agrees, but when you're in a real disagreement, when emotions are high, stakes are high, when someone is pushing back on something that really is important to you and matters. That's when emotional maturity gets revealed. And just like financial pressure, it reveals what you've been building in margin in relationships. Relationship pressure reveals your emotional margin. Let me show you the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. Reacting is what happens when pressure arrives and you haven't prepared for it. It's the sharp word that you didn't mean to say. It's the wall that goes up when your partner needs to open. It's the anger that comes out sideways because you never learned how to process what's actually been underneath. Reacting is the sponge releasing whatever has been absorbed, unfiltered, unprocessed, uncontrolled. Responding is different. Responding is what happens when you've done the work before the moment arrives, when you develop the self-awareness, when you've learned to pause, become between the stimulus and the action, when you built the habit of asking yourself, what does this situation actually need right now? Instead of just unleashing what you're feeling. Responding is preparing made visible in real time, in the middle of the hardest moments of your life. And that's what I need you to understand. Responding doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't show up automatically just because you want to be a better person. It has to be built in. It has to be on purpose, practiced, developed in private before the public. Emotional discipline is a skill, and like other skills, it needs to be practiced. And if you don't have it, it needs to be worked on, grown, developed. Pressure in relationships reveals 4 things specifically. It reveals your self-control. When things get tense, when someone says something that hits a nerve, when the situation is unfair, do you govern yourself, or does the moment govern you? It reveals your communication, not just whether you can talk, but whether you can be honest without feeling cruel, whether you can be firm without being cold, whether you can tell someone a hard truth in a way that they can actually receive it. It reveals your humility, because some of the hardest moments in relationships are the moments when you are wrong, when you have to lay down and you need to, say, I'm sorry. Pride, lay down your pride is hard, right? And pressure was always expose how much of it you're carrying. And it reveals your emotional discipline, which is the ability to feel something intensely, anger, fear, disappointment, and still choose how you respond to it. Not suppressing the feeling, not pretending it's not there, but outsourcing your behavior to your emotion. Sorry, not outsourcing your behavior to your emotion. Peace is proven in comfort. It's proven in conflict. Peace isn't proven in comfort. It's proven in conflict. Because anyone can be peaceful when nothing is disturbing. The real peace is when you built the kind of inner stability that holds even when everything around you is shaking. So let me ask you something honest. In the most important relationship in your life, can undertake significant pressure, not small disagreement, but something real. Can it sustain something real pressure? Would your emotional habits be a resource or a liability? Would people closest to you say that you are someone who adds stability in the hard moments, or someone that requires it? I'm not asking to shame anyone. I'm asking you to answer this, to tell you where your work needs to be done. And the best thing to do it, to work on it, just like the best time to build financial margin, is before you need it, before the pressure, before the crisis, before the moment happens. I want to take you somewhere familiar. Most of you know this story, and you've heard it maybe in church or growing up. You've heard motivational speakers, and you've seen reference in sports and business, politics, the David and Goliath, the young shepherd boy who works onto the battlefield that grown men, trained soldiers, right, experienced warriors were on. They had already walked. They had already walked away in fear, and this boy shows up, reaches into his bag, pulls out a few stones, and drops the giant that nobody else was willing to face. We love this story. We celebrate, the small man beating the big man. But I want to suggest something to you today that almost no one ever talks about in the story. And they almost get it wrong. Because everyone talks about the moment David faced Goliath. But do we talk about the moments before Goliath ever showed up and understand that missing piece? The season when everyone skips is the most important. The person goes from they're an overnight success, but they don't see the 2 decades of work they put in to become an overnight success. Before David ever stood on the battlefield, before he ever picked up those stones, before he ever meant to be anything outside of his father's house, David was alone taking care of his sheep. Not glamorous, no crowds, no limelight, no assignment, no one looking over his shoulder, just a boy in a field taking care of his animals. And while he was out there, something happened, something that the Bible almost mentions in passing. But I believe this is foundational to the story. David was there, a lion came and took one of his sheep. Now, I don't know about you, but if a lion comes and takes one of the sheep, I would say, Mr. Lion, would you like a knife and fork, or maybe some salt, maybe some tomato sauce, some ketchup? But no. David says, it says in the Bible that David went out and killed the lion and killed the bear. So he didn't, this pressure showed up, and he didn't shy away from it. He didn't run away from it. He went out and faced it. And he learnt to overcome the bear and the lion. No crowd, no audience, no recognition, no one clapping, no highlight reels on Instagram, no one watching, no one documenting it. Just David and the lion, and a choice about what he was going to do in that moment when nobody was looking. And then another moment, and another moment, and another choice, and another private victory that nobody celebrated. And then one day, this opportunity came to face Goliath. Overnight success, right? A shepherd boy comes along, he's not a warrior, and he defeats Goliath. How many of you have been preparing for your moment? If in your sphere, and if in your area of influence, and if you're the product you're developing, if you had an opportunity tomorrow to be in front of an audience of 1 million people to present your offer, your product, your service, and that was the prime group of people, the people that already were primed, ready for it, because someone else had that audience, right? And you were thrown automatically into that sphere, would you be prepared? Because David was prepared. He was getting prepared. He didn't know when his moment was coming. But how many of us, we want to be thrown into the limelight, but we're never going to be prepared for it? That's why I'm working on this YouTube channel, because I'm preparing myself. That's why I've written a book, because I'm preparing myself. That's why I'm working on building social media, to prepare myself. Not because I want to be great. That's not the goal. The goal is to prepare myself. The courage that dropped Goliath was not manufactured on the battlefield that day. Not the pressure. It wasn't built in. It was built in the wilderness. The pressure wasn't forged in the moment, the hype of killing Goliath. Oh, look at this opportunity! I'm going to kill Goliath. No, it was forged in the private moments when David chose to stand instead of run away. When David chose to protect instead of abandon. When David chose to trust in God to do what he was called, look after his sphere, manage what he was told to look after, and do it with all his heart and all his diligence. Not the reason for the crowd, not the reason for the clap, not the reason for the social media, but to do with due diligence what he was asked to do. And in that moment, overnight success. But it all mattered. Every lion mattered, every bear mattered, every quiet morning in the field that David could have been bitter about his assignment, thrown out there. His brothers are off being soldiers and fighting in the mighty battles. He was off in the corner in the back in the dark, but he was doing it. And when Goliath showed up, when the pressure arrived, what came out was everything David had been absorbing in practice, in private. Faith, courage, persistence, confidence, trust. Not because the giant produced it, but because the wilderness already had. He was already ready. And I want to point that out to someone here today. That's critical. That is so important. In the dark, he was being prepared. When David stood before King Saul and told him he wanted to face Goliath, Saul's response, you can't do this. You're just a boy. This is a man of warrior. He's been a warrior since his youth. And then he tried to put on David what he'd prepared, what he'd been in. He was a man of war, so he'd prepared. He'd put all his armor on, and David put it on. He's like, "This doesn't work. I haven't used it. I'm not used to it." He didn't say, "David, listen to what he said," but he didn't say, "I believe in myself." He didn't say, "I've been visualizing this moment." He didn't say, I'm just going to figure it out there." He said, "I've already done this before." He said, "When the lion came, I killed it. When the bear came, I killed it. The God who delivered me from the lion and the bear will deliver me from this uncircumcised Philistine." David didn't go into battle hoping he was ready. He knew he was ready because he had the receipts from the real wilderness. His private preparation gave him public confidence. And this is one of the most powerful things I can say to anyone watching this right now. You can't manufacture genuine confidence. You can't fake your way into real boldness. The kind of confidence that holds under pressure, that doesn't crack when everything is on the line, that kind of confidence only comes from one place, from having already done the work before, from knowing what you've built, from knowing I've been there, I've done that, I've survived. I've done that multiple times. You knowing what you came from and where you're going to go. Private preparation produces public confidence every single time. And David's story is not an isolation case in Scripture. This is a pattern, a principle that runs all the way through the Bible thread. Noah didn't build the ark after the rain started. He built it before. He spent 140 years building an ark, doing something that looked ridiculous to everybody around him, building a massive boat in a place where there was no water. That takes faith. Being faithful to prepare that he couldn't yet justify to anyone else watching. They would have ridiculed. He didn't even see rain. Water came up out of the ground. He'd never seen rain before. Imagine Noah's wife. Wives have questions. Husbands, we all know that. Noah, what are we doing? We're going to build an ark. Why are we building an ark? Because it's going to rain. What's rain? Water falling from the sky. Right. Seems pretty ridiculous. Him, his wife, his sons, their wives built the ark, all got on it. Joseph didn't become a wise administrator in one day. He didn't become second in charge in Egypt in an overnight success. Oh, look, an overnight success. Where'd this prisoner come from? He's an overnight success. No, the wisdom was built in the pit. It was built, refined in Potiphar's house. It was deepened in the prison cell when he'd risen to look after the prison cell, answer the dreamer's questions. Years of private preparation, years of character building, formed in circumstances that felt like punishment. Under that pressure, everything that had been built up in private shown up in the palace. God often prepares people privately before he reveals them publicly. The wilderness is not punishment. The obscurity isn't abandonment. The season where nothing seems to be happening, where you're faithful, doing the work, and nobody's recognizing it, and the breakthrough hasn't come through yet, that season's never wasted. The season is the most important season of your life because that is where the lion gets defeated. That is where the character gets built. That's where the sponge absorbs the faith, absorbs the discipline, absorbs the consistency, and that is going to come pouring out of you when the pressure comes. So let me ask you something directly. Sorry. Because I want to challenge you the way you're seeing it. That field full of sheep might be the most important place you've ever been. Because if you've been faithful in it, if you fight the lions that show up, if you protect it from the bears, you do everything you have been entrusted to do, if you keep building and growing and trusting even when nobody is watching and no one's clapping, you won't have to manufacture confidence when your Goliath shows up. You already know what you're made of because pressure won't be introducing you to this the first time. It'll be just showing you everything that you already know exists within you. The giant is not the chest, the wilderness is. And when you do the wilderness right, in the quiet, when it's hard, when nobody sees it, it determines everything that happens after that. If this video is something that shifted something for you today, if it challenged you, convicted you, encouraged you, or gave you a framework that you've never heard before, I want to ask you to do 3 things. First, subscribe, like, do all those YouTube-y stuff. Second, share it with someone, tell someone. Let me know in the comments what you think. Because preparation isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. And every day you practice it, you're becoming somebody. Pressure can't take you out. Remember, pressure doesn't build you. Preparation does. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.